Rista is a goddess that resides in heaven with several other gods and goddesses. Their job is to summon a hero and save a world plagued by demons from destruction. This information, however, is already ingrained in the brain of a weeb like you. Rista has been promoted and given the title of an S-ranked goddess. She seems happy when she accepts the title, but the moment she comes back home, she freaks out completely because she didn't expect to be promoted twice at once. Being an S-ranked goddess means that she will have to deal with a world that has an S-ranked demon king, and even the most veteran gods try to avoid these worlds as much as possible. She curses her luck but immediately starts working on drafting a human from Earth, which would fit the best for a world like this. She looks through the several potential candidates, but all of them have the most ordinary stats, which would have been fine in a normal world, but in an S-ranked world, these stats would lead to the person's death in an instant. While throwing a tantrum, she stumbles upon a candidate named Saya, who was level 1 but had excellent stats, which shocked Rista. She claimed that stats like this are unbelievably rare, and the chances of getting a candidate like this are 1 in a billion. She gets extremely happy and immediately draws a magic circle, summoning the hero from Earth. Saya arrives in heaven and seems confused after looking around. He looks at Rista for a moment and asks her where he is. Rista immediately puts on a godly facade and tells him in a very elegant fashion that he was in heaven and has been called by her as the chosen hero to save an alternate world from the grips of the demon king there. He looks at her and tells her to save the damned world herself if she is such a powerful goddess. Why does she need him for this matter? She is completely shocked at this and replies that there are certain rules that prevent the direct intervention of any gods in matters involving humans, so only a human can save the other world from the demon king. The gods can only help find the appropriate human to protect the other world. Saya still looks uninterested and tells her that he has no interest in saving a different world. Rista gets annoyed as almost every single hero who was summoned up until now was a simp for her and was very eager to save a world. However, this human is completely uninterested in her as well as the different world. She tells him that he has excellent stats and shows them to him. She also informs him that she will be accompanying him on this journey and guiding him through various obstacles. She then very eagerly opens the portal to the other world and starts going through it when she realizes Sia isn't following her. She turns around to ask what's the matter, to which he replies that he isn't going into this new world unprepared. He takes out his shirt and starts exercising, claiming that he will only go once he believes he is ready to go. She goes to one of her goddess friends and tells her about Saya and how he is adamant about training before going to the new world. The goddess named Arya tells her to be patient and support him. She tells him to give him some time and provide him with the basic necessities and some food for the duration of his training. Rista remembers that he hasn't eaten anything since he came here, so she cooks some rice balls and takes them to him. She opens the door and gives him the rice ball that she made, but Sia is extremely cautious and debates whether the rice ball could be poisoned. Rista gets annoyed and eats one of the rice balls to show that it isn't poisoned, and then she gives him some basic necessities that he will need before giving him a buzzer and telling him to ring it when he is ready. She then leaves the room in a huff. 3 days pass by and she didn't hear from Saya. She keeps bringing him food and placing it outside his door, but he hasn't rung the bell yet. Finally, after 7 grueling days, he rings the buzzer and Rista runs up to his room. She checks his stats and sees that he has risen several levels and even his stats have been increased. She is impressed to see his progress in only 7 days, and finally they agree to go into the alternate world. They both arrive in the world and Rista makes sure that they are in the beginner village where only weak monsters are found. They wander through the village while Saya constantly suspects anyone and everyone to be an enemy. Suddenly, a young girl arrives in front of them and starts talking to them. Saya is reserved and thinks that the little girl might be a shape-shifting monster. But Rista shuts him up and asks the girl where the closest weapons shop is. They go to the weapons shop and Rista gives him money to spend on some good equipment. Saya walks up to the seller and asks him to give her 3 of his best armors. Rista is horrified, as the armor is very expensive, and asks him why he wants 3. Saya replies that he wants 1 to wear, 1 as a spare, and 1 in case his spare is lost. Rista tells him that he can only get 1, and finally, after he buys a full set of equipment, he takes Rista to another shop where he stocks up on medicines and potions. Rista tells Saya that with his skills, they can simply leave this village and go to a higher level town, but Saya refuses to do so as he doesn't know what kind of monsters are around. Rista takes Saya to the outskirts of the village where he spots a slime monster. Rista tells Saya to just quickly kill it, as it is one of the weakest monsters, but is shocked to see that Saya charges up one of his strongest attacks and hits the slime, completely evaporating it from existence. Rista turns to tell him that it was a complete overkill, and that even a small stab would have killed the slime, but Saya tells her to shut up and uses another explosion magic at the same location where the slime was. Rista is completely shocked by this, but Saya is not done yet. He charges up and uses his strongest attacks multiple times until there is a huge crater in the ground and he is satisfied that the slime is dead. Rista was about to scold him, but suddenly they feel a very eerie aura and turn around to spot a demon woman walking towards them. She introduces herself as Chaos, one of the 4 generals of the Demon King's army. Rista is at a loss for words and asks her, why is she here? As this is the beginner's village, to which she replies that as soon as the Demon King realized that the hero had been summoned, he sent her to eliminate the hero as soon as possible, as he knew the hero would be weak and in the beginner's town. Rista turns around and tells Saya that they need to run, but is shocked to see that Saya has already started running. Rista also starts running as Chaos follows them. Chaos tries to hunt them down, but both Saya and Rista run like their lives depend on it. Rista starts slowing down after a bit, and Chaos was about to catch her. But Saya quickly uses his smoke bombs to misdirect Chaos and picks Rista up, running the opposite way. Saya tells Rista to quickly create a portal so they can head back to heaven, and she does so. Saya turns around and uses his fire ability to create a firewall in front of Chaos to prevent her from entering the heaven world. He pushes Rista away from him and tells her to piss off as he's going to train even more before going back to the world. 2 days pass by and Rista still didn't get any rings. She borrows Aria's magic ball and looks through it to see what is going on in that world. She is horrified to see that Chaos has taken over the village, and she beheads one of the villagers in front of her. Then she screams that if the hero doesn't show himself, she will keep killing villagers one by one. Rista runs towards Surya's place and shows him the magic ball, telling him that Chaos is killing all the villagers one by one. Saya looks at her and tells her that he will not go back to this world until he is completely ready. Rista can't believe her ears and repeats that if he doesn't go back right now, the villagers will die. He again tells her to stay back and let him train, as if he goes unprepared and dies, then all of the villagers will also die. Rista has had enough and she decides that she will face the demon alone and opens a portal, but Saya stops her, dons his armor, and declares that he is ready to face her. They both go into the world and Saya hides behind a house and then uses his wind magic to slash at Chaos, which she easily dodges, and then mocks Saya for his missed skills. Saya, in turn, tells her that she was never his target and that he was always aiming for the villager who was tied up. Chaos looks behind him to see that the ropes of the villager were cut off and he runs away. Chaos seems to be a little taken aback and he checks Saya's stats and is blown away to see how much he has grown. She, however, tells him that she also has an ace up her sleeve and reveals her true powers. She suddenly becomes bigger and stronger and attacks Saya with surprising speed. Saya is able to dodge the blow, but she keeps pushing him with attacks, which he tries to defend against. She accepts that Saya has surprised her by being able to keep up with her, but she tells him that it's the end for him, as she still has her trump card. She raises her sword as Saya prepares to defend against it, but to everyone's shock, she uses the sword to stab herself in the stomach and collapses on the ground. Before anyone could recover from this sight, her stomach burst open and a shadow emerged from it, circling up in the sky and transforming into a giant monster. Rista checks her stats and is completely horrified to see her true strength. She is several times stronger than Saya right now, and with his abilities, Saya doesn't have a chance against her. The giant demon flies down and punches Saya. A huge cloud of dust covers the entire area, and Rista is completely horrified and saddened, knowing that Saya isn't strong enough and that he couldn't have survived that attack. She blames herself for bringing him here when he didn't feel completely ready, but as the dust settles, she's overjoyed to see that Saya has blocked her punch. Both Rista and Chaos are completely shocked as to how Saya can block her punch, so Rista checks Saya's stats again and realizes that he was hiding his real stats all along. He is several times stronger than Chaos, and even before they ran away, he was still much stronger than Chaos, but he wanted to be cautious, so he trained some more. Chaos flies into the sky and charges a large ball of dark magic, but Saya flies straight up to her and uses his Phoenix Drive ability to kill her in an instant. Rista is overjoyed and hugs Saya, but Saya tells her to get away from him because he's afraid she has AIDS or something. Rista still clings on to him, and soon all the villagers surround him completely, thanking him for protecting them. They call him to the mayor's manor to have dinner with them, but Sega declines as his mom told me not to eat with strangers. He excuses himself and starts using a broom to collect all the pieces from the dead Chaos, which he then uses his explosion ability to destroy, as he is scared that she will regenerate. Rista tells him to stop as she is already dead, but he keeps using his abilities and finally uses his special ability, Fire Inferno, which creates a huge tornado of fire that spreads to all the houses and shops, and even a guy gets burned. Finally, when he is satisfied that Chaos is dead, he turns around to see the village half destroyed and asks if the Demon King attacked. The villagers beg him on their knees to leave their village and go somewhere else, and he agrees because he doesn't want to catch a plague from these people. They set off again on the journey, and Rista thinks that they will be going to the next city, but Saya tells her that he's going back to heaven to train some more, as he suspects the demon king will send even stronger opponents now that he has defeated one of his 4 generals. Rista tries to argue but ends up opening the portal when she sees that Sia isn't going to back out, and she follows him back to heaven. Saya goes back to his chambers once again and locks himself up again, telling Rista not to disturb him. Rista goes back to Arya and tells her about how difficult it is to deal with Saya. She explains that they haven't even proceeded to the next city yet, and Sia doesn't seem interested either. Arya tells her that she has saved 100 worlds before and has never seen a hero like Saya, but she also remarks that there was one particular world, which was supposed to be an easy world, but she was unable to save it. The hero of that world looks similar to Saya, but personality-wise, he was totally different. Suddenly, Saya walks into their chambers and calls Rista, telling her that no matter what he does, he cannot gain levels anymore. Rista gives him a sly smile and tells him that there is only so much he can do to train alone, and he cannot keep gaining levels if he only trains alone, as it takes more time to gain levels this way the stronger you get. Saya seems to be very confused, and he asks her if there is any other way, to which she replies that they could just fight real monsters, which will give him much more experience and help him grow stronger much faster. Saya looks at her and straight up declines the idea, saying that it is too dangerous. Arya comes forward and tells him that he could go and train with one of the gods, and that way he wouldn't have to be scared of dying, and he could also gain a lot of experience very quickly. Saya immediately loves this plan and asks her to take him to a god who will train with him. She takes him and Rista both to a god named Cirque, who is famous for his dedication towards training with his divine sword, and it is said that even after being the best swordsman among the gods, he still trains every single day. Arya goes up to him and asks him if he would train Saya, and he replies that normally he doesn't train with mortals as they are too weak, but he will train Saya because such a high-ranking goddess as Arya is asking him for a favor. He tells Saya to show what he has got, and they both do a small sparring session, in which Sia is able to keep up with him. The next day, Rista goes to the canteen and spots Cirque by himself. She asks him about the ongoing training, and he tells her that the training is going well and that he is learning very quickly. Another day passes, and this time Cirque seems a bit disturbed. Rista again asks about the training, to which he seems taken aback and replies with a laugh that it is going great and that he is a very strong candidate. The next day in the canteen, Rista spots Cirque in the corner, drinking water all alone and depressed. She asks what's the matter, and he replies that in 3 days he has gained so much power that Cirque can't defeat him anymore, and still he keeps forcing Cirque to train him. The next day, Rista doesn't find Cirque in the canteen, so she goes behind the canteen kitchen to get some seaweed to make rice balls for Saya, but is horrified to see depressed Cirque hiding behind some drying seaweed. She asks him what the matter is, and he replies that Saya is a sick man. He is a sadist and is already several times stronger than him, but he still forces Cirque to train with him, as he wants to be 100 times as strong as him before he moves on. He cries that he has nothing more to teach him and that Sia doesn't give him any breaks. Rista seems to feel sorry for him, but just then Sia arrives and asks Cirque what he is doing. Cirque seems scared and replies that he is just pretending to be a seaweed, and Sia looks at him with disgust before telling him that they are going to train. Cirque starts crying and throws his sword away in the water, saying he doesn't want to see it anymore, but Sia still drags him along inside the dojo to train. A person comes to Rista and tells her that the goddess named Ishtar is calling her, and she rushes to meet her. Ishtar is an old goddess who is very wise and can look into the future. She greets Rista and tells her to quickly move to the next town, as some people need their help and it is very urgent. Rista listens to her and quickly rushes to Cirque's place, where she finds Sia on top of Cirque, mercilessly punching him on the ground. She tells him to get off of him and tells him that they are leaving at this instant. Sia looks at her and says that he has learned all he can, so he goes along with her. They teleport to the next city and see that people are evacuating the entire town. Rista asks one of them about what's happening, and they reply that a horde of undead is coming to this city, and they should also leave while they could. Rista and Saya both go inside the city and visit a shop that sells holy water, which is very effective against the undead. Saya tells the vendor that they will buy 1,000 bottles of holy water, which outrages Rista, and she tells the vendor to only give them 10. They both walk towards the church, where they see a priest, a sister, and 2 kids, a boy and a girl, who introduce themselves as Ulu and Match. They are known as Dragonkin, as dragon's blood runs through them. The priest greets Saya and starts telling him about the horde of undead approaching, but without saying a word, Saya pours an entire bottle of holy water on him. Everyone is horrified at this act, but suddenly, the priest starts writhing in pain and gets converted back to his real form, which is that of an undead. Mash and Ulu walk up to finish him off, but are surprised to see that he has already been chopped to pieces by Saya without even being noticed. Saya gathers all the undead pieces, and Rista realizes what is going to happen. She takes the rest of them and rushes outside the church, just in time before Saya uses his Inferno ability to destroy everything in sight, even the entire temple, to the horror of the sister. He comes out later, and while the kids try to introduce themselves, he pours holy water on the sister and both the kids, and for good measure, he also pours the holy water on Rista herself, which makes her mad, but he doesn't give a crap about it. The kids turn towards him and tell him that from now on they are supposed to be his teammates, but Saya plainly looks at them and rejects them, saying that they are useless to him. Mash looks up at him unbelievably and tells him that he is a Dragonkin and is known as the hero of his village, but Saya bluntly replies that he should go back to his village and be a hero there then. Mash looks irritated, but before he could say anything, a bunch of knights arrived. They are horrified to see the fallen church and the barely conscious sister. They run up to her and ask her what happened, and she quickly tells them about the priest and how Saya is a hero, accompanied by the goddess Rista. They quickly turn towards Saya and apologize for their rudeness. They tell Saya that at least 200 knights have been dispatched from the capital and are coming to help them. Saya looks at him and tells him that he doesn't need them either. The knights look bewildered as Saya reiterates that he will be dealing with all the undead on his own, and he tells the knights to defend the town if there are any more undead hiding. He then turns towards Mash and tells him that if he wants to help, he should just stay in the town with the knights. Mash is extremely annoyed and walks away in a huff, telling Saya to shove it, as he's going on his own and will never team up with him. Rista looks at Saya and tells him to maybe reconsider, as they might come in handy, but Saya plainly looks at her and tells her that he doesn't even need her, and she should just wait at the inn while he cleans everything up. Rista is shocked at this statement as she's a goddamn goddess. Saya, however, just uses his flight ability and flies away. Rista is mad and uses her divine favor to get wings. She chases after Saya, who sees her coming after him, so he increases his speed. Rista focuses all other power in her wings and follows Suya. Finally, Saya realizes that this useless goddess isn't going to leave him alone, so he grabs her and starts flying at supersonic speed. They finally arrive at the location where the undead army currently is. Rista looks completely unsettled by the extreme speed they traveled at, but Saya just looks at the horde and tells Rista to be prepared, as he is going to use one of his strongest skills. He uses his flame magic and calls forth a small meteor from the heavens, which impacts the very ground where the undead are walking, resulting in a huge explosion that wipes out the entire army all at once. Rista is bewildered at this, but Sia isn't done. He uses the skill once again and hits the exact same spot where once the undead were, and is finally satisfied with the job. They go back to the inn, where he pushes Rista out of his room as he wants to synthesize new metal. Rista goes to meet Yulu, who informs her that it has been 2 days and she cannot find Mash anywhere, which is making her scared. Rista suggests that maybe he went back home, but Yulu replies that he would never do it without telling her. Rista takes her to Saya, who is ecstatic about his new platinum sword, which is extremely strong and basically the best sword that exists. Rista is surprised by this and asks how he made it. He plainly replies that he used a normal sword, some minerals, and a strand of hair from his head to create the sword. She informs him that Mash is missing, but before he could reply, a knock is heard at the door and a delivery guy walks in with a parcel for Saya. Rista opens it, and it turns out to be a mirror, and while she was admiring her curves in it, the mirror lights up and shows something that horrifies her. Yulu walks up to have a better look, but is immediately left in tears when she sees Mash sitting on a chair all bloodied up. Suddenly, a figure arises from the darkness and calls forth Suya. The figure introduces himself as Death Magla, one of the 4 generals of the Demon King. He tells Saya that he has captured the Dragonkin and is going to torture him before killing him in front of them to take revenge on Saya for destroying his army. Yulu starts crying and Rista has no idea what to do. She looks at Saya and he tells her to open a portal to the heavenly realm. Rista doesn't understand what he wants to do, but he takes out his sword and tells her to open a portal right now, and she obliges. Before Death Magla could bring his knife down on Mash, Saya swings his sword with a special Phantom Slash skill, which reaches Death Magla through the mirror and chops his arm off, saving Mash from the attack. Saya then quickly jumps into the heavenly realm alongside Rista and tells her to take him to the chief goddess. Rista takes her to the goddess Ishtar, and on the way, Saya tells her that time goes by 100 times slower in the heavenly realm, so they have around 15 minutes of time here before Death Magla recovers from the shock and finds another weapon to kill Mash. They arrive at Ishtar's place and Saya immediately tells her to create a portal to wherever Mash is. Ishtar looks at him with a smile and tells him that gods are not allowed to provide more help than necessary. Saya looks at her and threatens to kill all of them if she doesn't open a portal, so she quickly obliges. Saya rushes through the portal and sees Death Magla, still confused with how Sia chopped his hand off. Saya quickly uses his fire blast to blow him away, while Rista unties Mash and quickly heals his wounds. Death Magdala is still alive as he was able to use protective magic, which saved him. He looks at Saya and releases a giant phantom, which he claims to be his ace up his sleeve. Saya tries to attack the phantom, but he's a ghost-type monster and Sia is unable to attack him. Rista tells him that almost no normal attacks can work against a ghost-type monster, and Saya seems to be a bit taken aback by that. Death Magdala, the giant halfwit, however, thinks that he has already won and conveniently tells Saya that the only way to defeat the monster is to first use blunt force on him, then convert him into ice, which will solidify it, and only then can someone kill it if they have that much attack power. Saya thanks him for all of the information, but Death Magdala laughs at him, saying that he told him everything because he knows Sia is a fire element hero and ice element is literally the opposite of his type. He then orders the phantom to finish Sia off, but he dodges the attack and delivers a strong punch to the ghost, which shocks Death Magdala, who thought Saya is only a swordsman. The phantom and Saya both attack at the same time and their fists collide, but suddenly, to everyone's surprise, the phantom starts turning into ice. Death Magdala is completely shocked as to how this is possible, but Rista notices that Sia is wearing an ice element bracelet, which is letting him use ice magic. Saya reveals that he used Rista's hair to synthesize bracelets of every single element and spares of each bracelet, just to be prepared. Death Magdala, still recovering himself, says that his phantom has an extremely high defense stat and Sia couldn't possibly have enough attack power. And I think we all know what happens afterwards. Saya uses his fire magic and stabs the phantom full force, killing it in one blow. Death Magdala is bewildered by it and begs for its life, but Saya claims that he has a lot of cleanup to do and Rista simply takes Mash with him outside of the castle so that Saya could do his cleanup well. They all go back to the inn, and while Rista was patching Mash up, he looks at Saya and tells him that he was not aware of his overwhelming power before, and that's why he acted bratty. He quickly kneels down on the floor and asks Saya to take him as an apprentice with him. Saya looks at him and tells him that they can be his baggage carriers if they want to, and Mash happily agrees even to that. Mash and Ulu both tell Saya that they should go to the dragon's den, where their kind lies, as Destiny says that when Mash and Ulu return there, the most powerful weapon will form which will easily be able to defeat the Demon King. Saya looks at them and says that they should go, but before that, he tells Rista to open the portal to heaven, and he takes all of them in with him. He tells them that they are too weak to even carry his baggage and need to be trained before anything else. They all go to the cafeteria where they spot Cirque cooking food. As soon as he sees them, he gets a panic attack, but Saya calls him. Cirque runs up to him with a cake and tells him to taste it, as he made it with great care. Saya looks at the cake and tells Cirque that it looks disgusting. Cirque looks heartbroken, but then Saya tells him that they are going to train, which totally flips him out and he starts crying, saying he doesn't want to even look at a sword, let alone train with him. Saya looks at him with disgust and tells him that he's going to have to train Mash, not him. Cirque's mood changes, but just to be safe, he checks Mash's stats. Once he sees that he is not very strong, he immediately agrees to teach him. The rest of them then go to a fire goddess who promises to teach Ulu flame magic, and they leave her there. Arya then takes Saya and Rista to Aiden, the goddess of war, who is leads above Cirque and might be the perfect fit to train Saya. They go to her room and it looks very spooky. She herself looks like half a ghost with unkempt hair and torn clothes. She agrees to take Saya as her apprentice, and they start training. The next day, when Rista meets her, she seems to look happier than usual and says that training has been going pretty well before Saya calls her back in for more training. The next day, Rista brings them food and is shocked to see Aiden wearing better clothes and her hair seems to have been washed and brushed. Rista reminds Saya that they have to leave the next day and goes away. The next day arrives and they have to leave again. Rista gets Mash back and he has increased his skills quite a bit. She then picks Ulu up, but sadly the fire goddess tells her that Ulu doesn't seem to have a knack for flame magic and she hasn't really grown much. Finally, they meet Saya at the fountain, but before they could leave, Aiden arrives running towards them, wearing a beautiful white dress, with her hair tied beautifully and wearing makeup. She walks up to him and asks him to take her with him on his adventures as a companion, as she wants to stay with him forever. She also shows her the cake that she has made for him, but Saya barely looks at her and with great disgust says, "Yuck." He then simply moves on and tells Rista to open a portal as they are returning. While Rista opens a portal, they hear a giant explosion behind them and turn around to see that Aiden has gone berserk, breaking everything near her. Saya, however, doesn't give a crap and moves through the portal without even looking back. They move out and start moving towards the dragon's den, but on the way, a monster shows up. Mash immediately gets his sword out to try and fight it, but a fiery phoenix comes from the sky and kills the monster. Saya explains that this is his automatic Phoenix ability, which will kill any monster within a 100-meter radius of them. Rista tells him to maybe let Mash and Yulu deal with some of the lower-level monsters, but Sia feels that it is unnecessary for baggage carriers to deal with monsters. They start walking again, and any monster that comes gets killed by the Phoenix. While walking, Ulu notices that the symbol on their hand is glowing, and Mash also notices that. This means that they are very close to the den, and they finally find it. They go inside and find a huge door with 2 handprints on it. Mash tells them that only he and Ulu can open the door by putting their hands there, but Sia tells them to back off and gets out his sword. He then uses his eternal sword technique, which he learned from Aiden, and destroys the entire damn door. Mash and Ulu look down in disappointment, realizing that they were never needed, while Rista tries to cheer them up. They walk towards the platform, which lights up, and acknowledge their presence before telling them to step up on the platform to be teleported to the City of the Dragons. Saya stops anyone from stepping up and puts a lizard on the platform before saying that they are ready. The lizard vanishes, and after a couple of seconds, it reappears, with the voice saying that they think something went wrong as a lizard got teleported there. Saya checks the lizard for any deformities and then walks up to the platform and gets transported to the City of Dragons. He is greeted by one of the Dragomen, who tells him that they are extremely happy about their arrival and would like to take them to meet their leader and Queen, Lev. They'd all walk behind him through the city, and all the dragon people seem to recognize both Mash and Yulu, as they are mentioned in their destinies. Finally, they arrive at the palace, where Lev greets them. She calls Mash forth and uses her magic abilities to transform Mash into a half-dragon form, telling him that now he can transform at will, and that his powers would be multiplied tenfold in dragon form. Mash thanks her and tells Sia about it, who is happy as now Mash can carry more baggage. Yulu looks at Lev and asks when she will learn how to turn into a dragon, but Lev tells her that she will never learn that, as her destiny is even bigger. She's going to be sacrificed, and she will then be converted into the legendary weapon that will defeat the Demon King. Everyone is shocked at this revelation, and Mash looks back at Yulu in disbelief. Rista protests, saying that you can't just sacrifice Yulu like that, as it is unfair to her. But Lev starts talking about how the world is crumbling, and that 70% of the entire world has already fallen into the hands of the Demon King. And if they do not create the legendary sword that defeats the Demon King, the entire world is going to perish. According to Destiny, when a dragonkin girl is born in human flesh, she will have to be sacrificed, and her blood and flesh will become one with the sword. Only then will the Demon King be defeated. Hulu looks incredibly scared, but she puts on a brave act and says that there is no other way and that the world is more important than her. Rista and Mash are incredibly stressed and conflicted as to whether letting Ulu be sacrificed is the right thing to do, whereas Sia doesn't seem to have his mind troubled at all. While they are walking, when they are talking about what they should do, Sia just goes away to a vendor and buys a bunch of speed-enhancing seeds from him. Looking at Sia not giving a crap about her makes Ulu tear up, and she runs away, saying that she is good for nothing anyways, and maybe in this way she will be able to play a part in saving this world. Later in the evening, the feast is prepared for them, and Saya, alongside Rista and Mash, sit on the table alongside Lev and the others. Mash asks around for Yulu, but Lev tells them that she is getting ready for the ceremony. Mash still seems conflicted, but she has accepted her fate as what is best for this world. Lev proposes a toast, and everyone drinks from their cup, apart from Saya, who is too suspicious of everything. 2 small dragons walk up to Rista, Mash, and Sia and offer them cookies that they made, and thankfully Sia doesn't tell them that they are disgusting and simply eats one. Sometime later, Ulu arrives at the feast wearing beautiful ceremonial robes and a ruby necklace. Everyone stands up, and Lev announces that the ceremony is about to begin in the dungeons. They all go below inside the dungeons and watch from below as Ulu is put up on a platform high up. Lev explains that Ulu is supposed to cast herself off that platform into the abyss, where she will die and her flesh and blood will become one with the sword, which will emerge from the depths of the abyss and be used by the hero to defeat the Demon King once and for all, saving the entire world from being destroyed. Mash looks even more conflicted watching her on the platform, but Yulu looks at him and tells him that it is fine as it is destiny. She also jokes with them and tells them to clean and polish her once in a while so she doesn't get rusted before the sad look returns to her face. She starts moving slowly and looks at them again, telling them that she will see them soon once she becomes a sword, but it becomes too much for Mash, and he screams that it is not right. He starts walking, but is immediately captured by 2 of the dragon guards. Yulu looks at them from above and screams at them to let him go, but Lev simply tells them that she expected something like this might happen and was prepared for it. She tells the guards to help Yulu walk on the platform, and the fat guards start pushing Ulu towards the platform. Rista screams at them to let her go, but no one listens to her. Lev then tells the fatty guards to help Yulu jump into the abyss, and if she doesn't, then throw her off the abyss. The guards chuckle and start pushing her again, but suddenly Saya appears behind them and with a swift kick, throws both of them off the platform. Lev is extremely surprised at this and tells her to stop what he is doing, as this is the only way to save the planet. Rista looks at him worryingly, but Saya looks down on Lev and tells her that he is not going to believe the nonsense spouting out of an old, ugly lizard woman. He proudly tells her that he never had any conflicting thoughts from the start. Yulu is his precious baggage carrier, and she will always be that, and anyone who thinks otherwise will have to deal with him. Rista starts laughing at this statement, and Mash transforms into the dragon form and overpowers the guards, pinning him down. Suddenly, however, he collapses on the ground, and Rista looks back at him out of concern, just to realize that she herself has collapsed on the floor. Lev laughs at them and claims that she is an extremely conscious woman as she has lived for so long. She isn't naive like the hero and his party, and she thinks everything through before executing it. She reveals that the entire feast was just a setup, as she expected something like this might happen, and she put paralyzing potions in all of their drinks. Rista says, however, that Suya never drank her drink, to which Lev replies that she was surprised that he didn't, but she's always prepared and sent cookies through the hands of the children, which Suya was forced to eat. She then sends multiple guards up the platform and tells them to capture the hero and tie him up before throwing Ulu off the cliff. The fat guards walk up grinning ear to ear, but as soon as they get close, they are shocked to see that Seiya is completely fine, and he beats the crap out of them before throwing them off the platform. He reveals that he doesn't eat anyone's cooking apart from Rista's, and as soon as he ate the cookie, he forcefully vomited everything out, as he will never eat anything cooked by the hands of ugly, disgusting lizard people, who for all he knows might carry the bubonic plague. Lev commends Saya for his cautiousness, but tells him that it will be of no use before she transforms into an elder dragon. She flies towards Saya, and they both end in a face-off. Rista checks Lev's stats and is shocked to see her extraordinarily high HP. Lev responds by saying that an elder dragon is covered with scales that are tougher than any metal on this planet, and no ordinary sword could so much as scratch her. Saya, however, seems unfazed and asks Mash whether he packed that one item. Mash tells him that it's in the bag, and Sia grabs a red sword out of the bag, which shocks Lev. The name of the sword is the Dragon Killer, and it is the only sword that has any effect on an elder dragon. Saya responds that as soon as he knew they were going into dragon territory, he created a Dragon Killer sword because it was very probable that he would have to fight against dragons. Saya darts forward and slashes at Lev, which cuts her deeply, and she is surprised at the strength that Sia has. She immediately strikes back, however, and tries to kill Yulu, which surprises Rista. She screams at Lev, asking why she is trying to kill Yulu when she needs her for the ceremony. Lev replies that she only needs her body. It doesn't matter whether she is alive or dead. Saya tells her that he will never let an old lizard like her even touch Yulu, but Lev replies that she is the careful sort and she doesn't have to touch her to kill her. She informs them that she put a necklace on her before the ceremony, which will kill her within 3 minutes of its activation, and she activates it as soon as she finishes speaking. Yulu cries out in pain and drops to the floor, while Mash screams at Lev to leave her alone. Saya calmly tells Lev to release the curse, but Lev obviously refuses to, saying that the curse could only be removed if Lev died, and as soon as she said that, she uses her special ability called Defense Wall, and her entire body gets covered in golden-colored scales that are totally indestructible, even by the Dragon Killer. She cannot move in this state, but she only has to wait 3 minutes before Yulu dies and her job would be complete. Saya gets another Dragon Killer sword from his bag, which he brought as a spare, and eats a whole bunch of speed-enhancing seeds. He then decides to use the Eternal Sword technique that he learned from Aiden on both hands and starts attacking Lev at an incredible speed. Lev, however, doesn't seem to be fazed by it, and when Rista checks her stats, she realizes that her HP isn't dropping at all. None of the attacks that Sia is doing now are affecting her in this form, and the time is ticking for Yulu. Lev laughs at Saya, saying that he is wasting his energy to try and save her, as there is no way he can damage Lev in this state. Saya, however, doesn't seem to care and keeps attacking her. And finally, Lev realizes that he's trying to push her off the platform and into the abyss. Lev tells him to stop immediately, but obviously Saya keeps attacking her and pushing her back to a point where she is pushed off the cliff, but immediately transforms back into the normal Elder Dragon form and uses her flame breath to attack Saya. Saya simply uses his wind cutter magic to cut through her flame breaths, which also end up damaging her wings, and she falls to her death into the abyss, breaking the cursed necklace and saving Yulu. Saya grabs Wulu and descends from the platform, and finally both Rista and Mash are able to move. Suddenly, a sword emerges from the depths of the abyss, and Sita grabs it before cutting Ulu a little bit on the arm and putting her blood into the sword. The sword immediately turns into a beautifully ornate sword, which Sia calls the legendary sword. The dragon people are confused as they say it could only be created through the flesh and blood of Ulu, but Sigya tells them that he did use Ulu's blood and Lev was also a dragon woman, so it must have worked that way. This way, the entire dragon population seems to be happy, and they see him off to the teleporter and send them back to the den where they came from. Ulu and Mash go ahead, and then Mrista turns towards Saya and asks whether he lied about the legendary sword, and he replies yes. He just used a normal platinum sword and synthesized it in front of them, which made it look like the sword changed. Mrista thanks him for doing what he did, and they also move outside only to find a scared Mash and Ulu at the entrance surrounded by a bunch of men.